Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today I'm taking you to the Great League, where I'm going to be battling with a buffed Pokemon that everyone forgot about, Grumpig. Grumpig is a pure Psychic-type Pokemon with the moveset of Psywave, Dynamic Punch, and Shadow Ball, so it has an absolutely incredible moveset. The challenge, however, will be building a team that can help support Grumpig's many weaknesses. After some trial and error, the best team I found was this: Guzzlord as the lead, Grumpig as the safe switch, and Double Legacy Corviknight with Ironhead to surprise Fairy types. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we're off to a very rough start, leading Guzzlord into Shadow Annihilate. I safe switch into Grumpig, opponent sends out a Shadow Drapion, and that is a Pokemon that I have not seen for quite a few seasons. Dynamic Punch from Grumpig rocks the Drapion, and by landing that charge stack, it looks like I should be able to resist its Psywave down and win switch advantage. That would be big, because that means that I'm not going to have to deal with Annihilate on my Guzzlord. Unfortunately, the Crunch debuff does land onto the Grumpig, meaning that my defense will be lowered until I switch out. I'm double shielding though. I need switch advantage no matter the cost. So I double shield, get the Psywave down, and win switch advantage. My opponent sends in Bastiodon, and they are completely core broken by the Grumpig. Grumpig already almost had back-to-back Dynamic Punches. First one is gonna land, immediately followed by Dynamic Punch number 2. At this point, my Guzzlord is useless, so after Grumpig KOs 2/3 of their team, I get aggressive and I pivot into the Guzzlord. Guzzlord will be able to grab the final shield with Brutal Swing. This will simply do too much damage. And the good news for me is my opponent is forced to throw energy. They are not able to get that farm down. Ice Punch takes the knockout, but they just don't have the damage to KO the Corviknight. In comes Corviknight, I reach the air cutter, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. We pick up a decent lead in the next match, Guzzlord into Shadow Scizor. Now this is a matchup where Guzzlord is technically favored because Guzzlord has the pacing advantage. 9 turns versus 10, Brutal Swing lands, and that is some pretty deadly damage onto Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor, whether it goes for Night Slash or Trail Blaze, neither move will take the knockout. They launch the Trail Blaze, and I immediately undertap the Brutal Swing. I just want to lock in some damage. My opponent will have to put up a shield if they want this farm down, and they do just that. Scizor exits with a boosted Night Slash. I cannot take that on the Grumpig, so I send in Corviknight. Corviknight more than happy to absorb that damage and get a farm down, and with Scizor out of the way, hopefully there's Pokemon in the back that Grumpig can do well against. My opponent sends in Carvink, and this is where the double legacy tech on Corviknight is about to ruin their day. Corviknight launches the Ironhead, devastating damage onto the Carvink. Carvink goes for Rock Slide, but I know this is just not going to be enough damage. Rock Slide lands, in comes Grumpig, and my opponent reveals their final Pokemon in the back is Jellicent, and this game is already over. Jellicent down a shield, has no hope against Grumpig. They do put up the shield, calling that I'll full send the Shadow Ball, but even getting that shield call right is never going to be enough to save them. Look at the Psywave damage already on this Jellicent. Jellicent taking substantial damage. They're already in Shadow Ball range, but I do want to ensure that I have a bit of residual energy to make sure that I can outpace that Carvink. So I farm up, fire off the Shadow Ball. This is going to be good night, Jellicent. Back in comes the Carvink. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to the next match, and oh my goodness, Guzzlord cannot catch a break with these leads, leading once again into Shadow Annihilate. So the game plan is the same as before. Safe switch into Grumpig. This opponent responds with an Azumarill, and this is a matchup that Grumpig has the ability to flip. Grumpig Shadow Ball gets shielded. My opponent knows that they're in danger of losing switch advantage, and they do not want to let that happen. Since they shield, I'm more than happy to shield back and continue the farm. I feel that a bait is too risky, so I'm going to full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands onto Azumarill. That is genuinely pretty helpful. I'm going to let this go because I know an Ice Beam will not knock me out here. I actually tanked that a bit better than I expected. I think I can even make 2 Shadow Balls. No, I can't. I can make a Shadow Ball and a Dynamic. It's a 50-50. The Shadow Ball gets shielded, and unfortunately, I will not be able to flip switch. I was able to get both their shields and get them very, very low. I would have had to bait with Dynamic and land the Shadow Ball to flip swap, but even so, being able to get shield advantage out of the mid game is quite nice. Azumarill Ice Beam is going to connect. I get the farm down with the Corviknight. What do they have in the back? They have Licky Licky. I'm going to try for a Shadow Ball catch onto Guzzlord. I do not get it, but I get an energy head start because when I switched, it forced my opponent into a rollout overtap. Shield comes up on Guzzlord. It's going to be the Rage Fist bait. My opponent knows it's all about the fast move pressure. I fire off the Brutal Swing. I need this to KO. It does not. Guzzlord gets the Dragon Tail down and exits with the Brutal Swing loaded. That is a massive swing of momentum. Now I get damage on the Licky Licky, and that's going to help out Corviknight. Corviknight has a bunch of energy, but the Licky Licky was too healthy before. I wouldn't have been able to take the knockout, but now it's perfectly in double Iron Head range. Corviknight fires off Iron Head number 1, and that's going to be the game as we make it to Iron Head number 2. So some pretty rough leads to start with, not what Guzzlord's hoping to see, but we're still able to secure the win. We've got a cool lead in the next match, Guzzlord into Shadow Altaria. This is probably the best lead that we've seen so far. Altaria will be able to inflict some pretty substantial damage with Shadow Sky Attack, so I'm going to put up the shield and then look to farm up to the back-to-back. So I farm up to the back-to-back Brutal Swings. My opponent switches into Scizor, maybe trying to catch a Sludge Bomb, but instead, they're catching huge damage, courtesy of Guzzlord. Guzzlord gonna farm up to the back-to-back Brutal Swings. If my opponent shields, I'm always gonna be catching out of this onto the Corviknight. So I send in the Corviknight as they fire off the Night Slash, trying to go for the CMP tie. I get the Sand Attack through, and now I can very safely throw 9 Sand Attacks and fire off the Air Cutter. I could have considered going for the farm down, but I wanted to preserve HP on the Corviknight. Air Cutter lands, no boost comes through, and back in comes Altaria. I could have gone for the Air Cutter for chip, but I decided to commit to the Iron Head, and I regret it, as my opponent doesn't let me get there and KOs me with a Flamethrower. But I've seen this team a few times. It's usually Empoleon in the back, so being up energy on Grumpig, I'm going to win this game. So I shield up the Sky Attack, they bring in their final Mon, and that is not Empoleon, it is Gastrodon. I fire off the Dynamic Punch bait, my opponent no shields, and that is a catastrophic error by me. I had the energy advantage where I could have got 2 Shadow Balls. Shadow Ball does more. It doesn't seem like a big misplay at the time, but wait for it. Because they have more HP than they should if I had gone for 2 Shadow Balls, and that means that I cannot Dragon Tail down after I fire off the Brutal Swing. They survive on very low HP. In comes Altaria. Altaria snipes me down, and a winnable game slips away. Well, we get an opportunity for redemption in the next match as we lead Guzzlord into Gastrodon. This matchup is a little bit uncomfortable in the zeros because you can't quite knock out with the Dragon Tails and 2 Brutal Swings, and they can't quite knock out with the Body Slams and the Mud Slaps either. But I like to try and go for a catch in this matchup because catching a Body Slam on a Corviknight will typically put you very far ahead. So I try for the catch, I don't get it, my opponent sends out a Togekiss, and I think they are not going to like that decision momentarily. Even though Iron Head is super effective, I know it doesn't one-shot from full, so I go for the Air Cutter first. This should lull my opponent into a false sense of security, thinking that I do not have Iron Head. But right before they're able to get their second Aura Sphere, I go for the Iron Head. Iron Head lands through 2 Protect Shields and takes the knockout. So Togekiss has been eliminated. That is a big threat to Guzzlord gone. My opponent brings back in Gastrodon, and I switch out, saving the Corviknight, and send in Guzzlord. Guzzlord's Brutal Swing takes the knockout. In the back, they have Fearow, and this game is over. Fearow is going to take huge damage from Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing gets the shield. Fearow going to look for a 3-peck farm down and gets it, but since I saved the Corviknight, this Fearow is in so much trouble. Drill Peck will not knock out the Corviknight from this health range. They have to try for it. Drill Peck misses the knockout on the Cap Tie to the Iron Head, and that's going to be game over. Iron Head lands, in comes Grumpig. Grumpig will get the Psy Wave down, and we get the 2 Shield Flex as well. We move to the next match, my opponent running some very cool Spice Guzzlord into Blossom. However, my happiness is short-lived when I remembered that Blossom learns Dazzling Gleam. This could one-shot me. I put up the shield, it's a Leaf Blade bait, fire off the Brutal Swing, and my opponent makes a catch onto Furret. So they seem pretty core broken by the Guzzlord so far. Guzzlord is going to look to bank some energy and then send in Corviknight. Corviknight is a complete wall to energy from this Furret. Furret will go for the Trailblaze, just looking to try and ramp up their damage as much as possible. Boosted Sucker Punches do quite a lot, so suddenly my Corviknight is not nearly as healthy as it once was. Swift lands, my Corviknight now approaching the red HP. I don't trust Air Cutter to take the knockout, so I fire off the Iron Head to guarantee it. They get KO'd, in comes Stunfisk, and that is a complete wall to this charge stack set on Corviknight. So I end up saving the Corviknight energy for later, pivoting into the Guzzlord, and now I'm just going to start spamming out Brutal Swings. Brutal Swing, not going to do much to either Pokemon, but this is a war of attrition. My opponent makes a very nice catch, catching the Brutal Swing onto Blossom, because they know that I would never be throwing a Sludge Bomb at their Stunfisk. I undertap another Brutal Swing. That's going to be shielded. Switch Clock should be up soon, and there is the combo play. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight already at back-to-back Air Cutters. Oh, one off. My opponent shields, but I just had too much energy. The Air Cutter takes the KO. Back in comes the Stunfisk. Stunfisk will get the full farm down, but I can send in the Grumpig to close out this game. We had several games to start where Grumpig was putting the team on his back. In this one, Grumpig honestly didn't have to do much. It was the power of Guzzlord and double Legacy Corviknight. We make Dynamic Punch, and my opponent resigns the match as that charge attack lands. Guzzlord versus Empoleon in the next match. This is a bit of a tricky Pokemon for this team to deal with. Guzzlord does okay here just because it's able to outpace the Empoleon, but not having payback on my Corviknight did end up backfiring in a few games where I was going up against Empoleons and I didn't have a way to damage them with my charge attacks. Empoleon will fire off the Drill Peck. That's going to land for some sizable damage. My opponent makes a very nice catch as they catch onto Florges. Florges absorbing that Brutal Swing, and I send in Corviknight. Corviknight, this is where Iron Head is going to be very helpful. They're going to debuff me, of course, and with the debuff, they should survive the Iron Head, but it's still going to do some pretty substantial damage. I don't want a second debuff to land before I land this energy, so I fire off the Iron Head. They survive, but they're now deep into the red health. Florges will get another Chilling Water, and now at -2, I cannot farm down. Having to throw energy here on such a low health Pokemon is definitely a bit tragic, but I have energy and I can switch out to reset the debuff. So I bank the Air Cutter, send in Guzzlord, try for the Brutal Swing, but I will get outpaced, and I'm just going to let this go. My game plan now is to wait down the timer, send in Grumpig, and then go for a one-shield Psywave down. I know Empoleon does have some energy in reserve, and they fire it off here, so I put up the shield. I still don't know what they have in back. They've hid this Pokemon up until now, and it's revealed as Go-Goat. Go-Goat is a Pokemon that did get buffed this season as well. It got access to Rock Slide. Dynamic Punch lands big damage onto the Go-Goat, and the energy that I stored on Corviknight will be key in this matchup. In comes the Corviknight. Corviknight already almost at back-to-back Air Cutters. Let's ramp up the pressure on my opponent. Air Cutter is going to be shielded. I get to Air Cutter number 2, and just like that, they go from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. Go-Goat's going to look to overfarm quite substantially, and I think I'm just saving the shield for Grumpig. Go-Goat gets greedy, goes for the Leaf Blade, they switch into Empoleon, and they're able to catch the Air Cutter. Air Cutter shouldn't knock out here, so I full charge it, but it does! And suddenly, I think I've just lost this game. I should have undercharged the Air Cutter, but I thought the Empoleon was healthier than it was, and Go-Goat outpaces me by one singular turn. If I just undercharged the Air Cutter, I could have Psywaved down and won the game, but unfortunately, a catastrophic error on my part causes me to lose. Well, we're going to need a bit of redemption after that game, and we get a really nice lead, leading Guzzlord into Talonflame. If they're non-Shadow, they almost always have Brave Bird, so I will respect it. My opponent safe switches into Diggersby, and I get to respond with Grumpig. Grumpig, even down energy and down a shield, is going to do very, very well into Diggersby. Diggersby goes for the Scorching Sands. Thankfully, Scorching Sands debuffs are kind of a relic of a past time now. And this 12-11 pacing on Dynamic Punch is incredibly, incredibly fast. Even being down energy, I'm able to catch back up in no time. I shield the Scorching Sands, and look at this. I should be able to get my next Dynamic Punch on Charge Attack priority to their Scorching Sands. They no-shield Dynamic, hoping to outpace, but they do not. The speed of Grumpig. We make it to a third Dynamic Punch, and that just takes the KO. They send back in Talonflame. I throw a few Psywaves, and then combo play with the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to land, getting Talonflame very low. If they want their Talonflame energy, they're going to have to give me their final shield. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. They undertap, and the Dragon Tail goes through. But this is only enough energy for a Fly. Fly will not take the knockout. I undertap as they try and snipe with a Mud Slap from Gastrodon, and this game is already over. Gastrodon will get a farm down. My switch clock was not up, but I have a fully healthy Corviknight in the back. In comes Corviknight. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping to the final match, and we actually got the same lead back-to-back to end us off. And it's leads that we really like to see. Guzzlord into Talonflame. This Talonflame, again, gonna throw on alignment. Talonflames really like to go for the Brave Bird and dip here, so I shield, it's a Fly bait, and my opponent safe switches into Blastoise. Blastoise plus Talonflame was a duo that I really liked in previous seasons, but with how popular Jellicent is right now, it feels like a very big risk. I'm going to keep spamming out Brutal Swings because I have a bit of a nefarious plan. And the plan is revealed when I catch a Skull Bash, which is going to be resisted onto my Corviknight. Corviknight now has to deal with a boosted Blastoise, but I didn't really take any damage from that Skull Bash, so it ends up working out very nicely. Hydro Cannon is going to land, switch timer's up, in comes Talonflame. Now, I don't have payback, but my opponent doesn't know that. So they put up the shield, respecting the payback. I do not get damage registration error, so the game works as intended, and I bring back in the Guzzlord. This could be the Brave Bird, so I put up the shield. It's going to be another fly. This is a 50-50 call. Do I bait or do I nuke? I'm full sending here, going for the Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb connects. We farm down Talonflame, and that is a big threat eliminated. My opponent sends back in the Blastoise, but Blastoise is just going to get fully farmed down. I know Hydro Cannon will not knock me out here. Hydro is going to land. They take the rollout damage in the back. They do know what a Jellicent is because they have one of their own. That's not what I'm hoping to see with Grumpig, but I basically was almost at 3 Brutal Swings on this Guzzlord. Guzzlord firing off Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing, just an absolute avalanche of damage. And now I can switch into Grumpig, because Grumpig, even though it's going to take super effective damage from Shadow Ball, guess what? Grumpig's going to hang on. We snack the Shadow Ball, get the farm down, and secure the win. All in all, I had a ton of fun with this team. I really wanted to try kind of a more unique anti-meta team for my final team of this Great League rotation, and I feel like this team really fit the bill. Grumpig, being a mono psychic type, has a ton of weaknesses, and I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect team that covers them all. This team, for example, is pretty weak to bug. Scizor, for example, Guzzlord can deal with because Scizor doesn't deal bug damage, but something like a Bug Bite Fortress would be pretty tricky, because Fortress would obviously shred through the Guzzlord, and it would shred through the Grumpig as well. Another Pokemon that could be a little tricky for this team would be something like Charjabug, as Charjabug can hit the entire team for super effective damage. But even despite these potential core breakers, the team did end up going positive in the 2800s. It's been quite a while since people last saw Grumpig, so a lot of people were just completely unaware of its dynamic punch pacing, which is actually the same as Lapras, Psywave to Sparkling Aria, and people really weren't prepared for the fact that Shadow Ball was now a lot faster to get to. Being able to get to Shadow Ball so quickly really allows Grumpig an ability to spam out some pretty significant damage in neutral matchups. Grumpig's ability to just win in some neutral matchups, like against Florges, for example, is something that I would have never expected, and I think is a really big plus for Grumpig. I think this is probably the best team that I could have built to support Grumpig, and I felt like in some of these games, it really did turn into an absolute monster, especially that Bastiodon Annihilate Drapion game, where Grumpig ended up KOing an entire Drapion, an entire Bastiodon, and getting some Psywave damage on the Annihilate. So, a fun way to end off the Open Great League. I believe the next rotation that's coming up is Ultra League and Sunshine Cup, so I'll be cooking up a few ideas for those metas soon. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.